Hi, I'm Brian Nathanson from Clarity Product Management, and today we will be covering some additional quality of life features from our latest release. So what's new? We've introduced Days as a supported unit in more locations of the modern UX for the out-of-the-box planning metrics, which is ETC and allocation. We've introduced a search box on the name and ID, or subject and ID for ideas, that has been added to the common component grids. Customers can now configure the system logo. Details are now set as the default tab for most of the system flyouts. The supported URL length has been increased from 255 to 2048 characters. That's specifically a change made mainly to support single sign-on linking. New higher contrast color theme and other UX changes. The common component drop-down refinements for single-valued lookups in OBS. The selected values are now highlighted. The first few characters are no longer lost when typing into the drop-down search. They now have infinite scroll. They're no longer restricted to 25 values in places where that restriction existed. As far as the settings go, so for the Days setting, it's found in the profile menu under settings. It's in the general section, and you can see that we now have a Days option next to the FTE and hours options. It'll cause the allocation and ETC data to display in days versus hours or FTEs. Regarding the new Days option, so again, as I mentioned, affects the staff assignments and task grids and flyouts within an investment. Other areas have the option, but it is found in a different location. For the project summary metrics and the cross-project task grid, the setting is in project management settings. For the timesheet, the setting is in project management timesheet options. For the staffing workspace, this option has not been added yet. So again, just to reiterate that. For the search box, it's up on the top of the grid. It's just simply right next to the filter icon. You start typing there into search on name and ID. The results will filter as you type. Note that it applies in addition to any filters. So if you have filters applied, it will look within that filter set for those particular projects or investments or whatever you might be looking at, risks, issues, anything using the common grid component. For logo configuration, you find this in a new tile called System Settings. And you can see here we have a number of comments about that. First of all, the logo changes immediately upon autosave after you upload the file. There's no save, there's no extra button you have to push. Once you upload the logo, it will immediately change for all users on their next screen refresh or load. The tooltip for the hover over the logo can be set. The delete button only appears if the logo has been configured. You can see on this screen that on the left, we've configured the Broadcom logo in, so the delete button exists. On the right, it's the standard Clarity logo, and you'll notice there is no delete button because that is the default logo. Guidance about logo file dimensions is provided directly on the screen. To upload a new logo, you hit the blue button, and then logo changes are immediately saved, and you'll get that toaster message at the top that says logo uploaded successfully. From a theme perspective, you'll notice that we have a new darker blue theme color. Again, higher contrast, improved color contrast in general in various places. This is, again, to help meet accessibility requirements and make it easier to read on bright or dark displays. We've also taken steps to make the color more consistent across the interactive elements, whether that's buttons, inputs, drop-downs, links, tabs, etc. And we are doing some things as well to highlight selections and so forth. We've refreshed colors in the older workspaces like staffing, timesheets, documents, etc. And again, consistent coloring throughout the modern user experience will help with improved color contrast for accessibility. Some specific changes for drop-downs. We have improved the drop-down in the common grid, flyout, and details module. The single select and multi-select lookups all use this searchable drop-down component now, and we added support for infinite scroll for all those fields. We've also improved the grid lookup editing. Sometimes when you tried to open the lookup, you had to click a few times to get it to open. We've now made that so that the click will now open it. Sometimes you lost keystrokes when you were typing quickly. If you would click into it and get the cursor and then type your first couple of characters, you'd lose them, and which would cause weird behavior when you would actually try to find something because it wouldn't remember the first two characters you typed. Okay, this has also been resolved. We also now, in the common grid lookup, highlight the selected choices. Now we'll go ahead and show you all of what we just talked about. All right. So if we come on back to our projects and take a look here, we can go ahead and drill into a project, and we're going to go to the staff page because I want to be able to see my allocations. So in this case, I believe I'm actually already looking at days, but to get to that setting, you go into the menu in the upper right, and in the profile menu and under general, you can see your setting. So you'll notice I do have it set to days already, and over here you can see that we have 21 days. If I flip it back to hours, you'll notice it jumps up to the 168 hours because we're using 8 hours per day based on the standard calendar in the system. So again, if we flip to FTEs, we'll get back 1 FTE, but again, if we go back to days, it'll be that 21 days again, right? So we are able to flip now between hours, FTEs, and days, and it affects both that screen here as well as on assignments. If we're looking at the assignment values for a particular project, this again is looking at it in days since that's where I left the setting. If we changed it to hours, it would expand that out based on the hours and so forth. So that's the basic idea here, is we've now made that available as a setting in the staff and assignments. Okay. Next, we will take a look at the search box. So again, you'll notice that, as I mentioned, assignments do not have the search box and staff does not have the search box because they don't have traditional names and IDs. But when you come out to a place like this one that does, we can go ahead and take a look at what happens if we type in a few characters here, and you'll see that it quickly brings me back just those projects that have GDPR in the name. It is also applying my filters. So again, it applies this in addition to the filters that you might have applied. Okay, but it's a quick search and allows you to get back. So if you're trying to find that one project or one investment that you want, or one risk or issue, etc., you can just simply quickly type in a few characters and be able to locate it if you know what it is based on the name or ID. It does also work on IDs as well. Okay, so that's that particular piece there. Next, we'll talk about the logo. So we have our Clarity logo up here. And so if we actually go ahead and come on into the appropriate section, so we're looking at the system settings section, you'll see that we have our branding capabilities here. If we actually come on in and say upload the new logo, you will be able to come in here and see the specific supported types. And so if we come along here and say that we want the Broadcom logo as an example, it will upload the Broadcom logo and immediately change it, as I mentioned. So logo uploaded successfully, and here's the Broadcom logo. You'll notice now that it also has the delete button, so I can remove that. If I go ahead and change the tooltip to something other than Clarity, then it will go ahead and save that as well. And so when I mouse over it, it'll say Broadcom. Over here, this is actually on a dark background color, so if I uploaded a logo that's actually got that particular type of support here, then we will then be able to log out and see what that looks like, and you'll see that it actually provides that white logo on the dark background, right? Now, if we come on back in here, one of the things to just point out is, again, now they have delete buttons here. You cannot make this blank unless you uploaded a white square, I guess, or a dark square. If you delete, you will end up sending it back to the default icon that we ship, which is this Clarity icon. Okay, so notice the tooltip doesn't default at the same time. So if you want to change it back to Clarity, you'd have to type that back in. But that's how you basically make those changes. Okay, so just you now have the ability to brand the system with the logo and be able to make those types of adjustments. Next, we have I've been showing some of the improvements in the user experience as we go here. If I click once, basically in the box, I get back the pop-up. Now I don't have to do that kind of double-click thing that people had to do. You'll notice that the select item is highlighted. So there are a number of things that have been improved in that regard. That applies both here as well as to anything that we used in the flyout for being able to do that. Right, so there's a number of places where we've made those types of improvements, as well as the higher contrast blues that you've been seeing throughout the demonstration. Okay. No, actually, that was it.